Hello, everybody, and welcome to RPG Limit Break. And we're here for Limit Breaks, our bi-weekly podcast. And today we're going to be talking about something which is dear to many of us that's coming up very soon in the yearly schedule, and that is the Final Fantasy V 4-Job Fiesta. My name is Netara. I'm going to be one of your hosts here today. Fellow co-host Sid, please introduce yourself.
I'm the Sid. I usually do interview tech stuff, so we'll see if I can ask questions good or not.
I have faith. And joining us are two of the runners who are going to be part of The Run, which if you don't know what that is, we're going to be talking about it soon. Riz, Dragon Dark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. So why don't we start with defining 4-Job Fiesta? What is it?
So it's a yearly event that was created by Revenant Kyoku, or RK as we generally call him, where you're given basically all summer to play through Final Fantasy V with the restriction of only having very specific jobs, depending on what kind of run type you have. There's a whole bunch of them that you can pick from. It would take forever to explain them all, but you can go to 4jobfiesta.com and take a look at the different run types. You can create an account and get pre-registered if you'd like. But it's basically a challenge run of FF5 to play through with a restriction.
Nice. And I can say, as someone who has played this in the past, it's a lot of fun. It's actually the only way I was able to finish Final Fantasy V, because if you're someone like me who gets choice paralysis and there's like a bazillion jobs, this limits you to 4. And there's so many resources which help you get through that if you're also, like me, not super familiar with them. So Riz, do you want to talk to us about The Run?
Yeah, so the run differs a little bit from doing your own 4-Job Fiesta. Generally, when you go on the website, you'll choose a run, and then once you've locked in all your settings, it'll spit back at you your first job. And so generally, that's one of the Wind Crystal jobs. It's the order that you get them in there. But for the run, our opening race, we actually get access to all 4 of the jobs, so we know what we're looking forward to. And then we do some routing to make it like a race between 4 people. So this year it's going to be myself and then Elmagus, Yagamoth, and Bowie the Hero. And we are going to race to see, who can get to the end the fastest. And so those are the differences between the run and like a regular 4-Job Fiesta.
Nice. And Dragon Dark, I know you're usually one of the folks who participate in the run, and you had a bit of a special experience last year.
Yeah, just a pretty big sequence of unfortunate events for the other racers. Ended up with them all having to drop for various reasons, understandable reasons, like it wasn't like they were just like, last minute I don't feel like doing it, but no, they all had very valid reasons for dropping, and I ended up just picking everything up and just doing the run solo, handling the restream solo, plus all the routing and all that stuff. It was a lot of work, and I was talking with Riss last year at Limit Break in July, I think it was, and he had expressed interest in also actually participating. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, I can restream this year. I'm good.
I did my part last year and the years before. It's time for me to get a break.
Yeah, and an odd sequence of events. We're all staff, so most of the time we have time to chat on site. It's a very interesting setup.
I was like, we like video games?
Yeah.
Weird.
We do?
Yeah.
And we talk to each other? Huh?
Yeah.
No.
But, so 4 jobs are rolled independently, usually correct, like you said. And this year you guys start with a setup. It's different every year, usually because of how are the jobs chosen? It's not random. right? Or
So there's a community poll that, again, RK puts out. He runs this entire event, so he's kind of like in charge of doing all of the behind the scenes, like making it all work. But he'll put out a community poll that's basically just vote for the jobs you want in the run. You can vote for 4 jobs, but the caveat on that is that the runs that were in last year get less, so we can't do two of the same run all the time, so we get some variance in that. This year, when the community voted, and then it ended up with Black Mage, Summoner, Beastmaster, and Chemist, which honestly is a pretty strong team.
So you're feeling good about this party versus some of the previous parties we've had, I guess.
I feel like the community in general kind of took pity on me being my first opening race, that like they really wanted me to succeed with the party that wasn't quite as difficult to get through the game as sometimes it is.
yeah, sounds like that party has a few low points, but for the most part, it's pretty powerful overall for sure. I know a lot of people really kind of poo-poo Beastmaster, but unfortunately, you're not really going to take advantage of it much this run, but do you want to counter that with Beastmaster?
With this run? I mean, I'm only probably going to catch 1 monster and release it.
Is it a bear?
And it is not a bear, unfortunately.
No Baraga, run canceled.
Baraga is very popular in the community. It can do a lot of damage, but unfortunately we have Summoner and Black Mage and Chemist, and so damage isn't really the issue.
Yeah.
As far as the catches go, the most useful ones are probably just going to be the ones that cut percentage HP.
Right.
And just using them on very high HP targets. Beyond that, World 1 you have Rod Breaking, World 2 you have Rod Breaking, and World 3 you can hard cast those spells and you'll have Sildra. So it kind of ends up in a position where the time you're spending catching the monster isn't making up for what kind of damage it can do unless you can really hit hard with it. Which is a shame, because Beastmaster is really, really strong on its own. It's just on this team, it's overshadowed by basically everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And Riz, in our kind of pre-podcast discussions we were having, you're talking about maybe not doing quite so much rod breaking as maybe you usually would?
Yeah, so basically, I don't want to try and farm for as much money, and that's generally like what slows you down, is that you have to walk back and forth. Generally, outside Karnak, there are wolves, and that's like the major point that you can just... They are worth so much gil that you can just sit and grind there and get as much money as you want, buy tens of rods from the weapon shop, and then just sweep your way through World 1. But I've decided that we have a lot of AoE options, like Ifrit. We get Ramu, Titan eventually, who obviously is a powerhouse, and then you can all target all your black magic as well. So I've cut back a little bit on my rod breaking just to ease up on both the money constraint and also having to go back to a shop to actually buy them cost time as well.
Speaking of grinding, I know that there are different bonuses if you use Pixel Remaster, and there's some quality of life mods as well. What version of the game will be used for this, just so that everybody knows what the versions are?
So we're using the original Super Famicom version, but with the English patch, just so it's readable. But that means that there's no GPA jobs, there's no Pixel Remaster Turbo, there's no like bonus experience, bonus AP, anything like that. So it is what I would consider like the vanilla version of the game.
Is there a reason you picked that version this year?
Not specifically. Generally, it's just kind of the runners have a discussion. We go, okay, we did this last year, we did this the year before. How about we do this? Okay, sounds good. Yep, we'll do that one. And then we have to route in kind of a short amount of time, so making that decision is usually pretty quick.
So what I'm hearing is that anybody that does actually join the 4-Drop Fiesta can choose whichever version they want. It doesn't matter. It's only restricted for this opening race.
Yeah, that's right. So depending on the run you pick, so there are versions of the 4-job Fiesta you can pick that do include the GBA jobs, and obviously for that you have to use Game Boy Advance because they're not available in any other version. So, but otherwise, like just you could even pick your run and then decide this one I'm going to do it on SNES, this one I'm going to do on PlayStation. Please do that once. It's actually fun.
Is it? Like, why? Explain. Please defend yourself.
So a lot of people are just, the PlayStation is the worst version of FF5. PlayStation just gets all of the black sheep of it. And it's like kind of not wrong.
Yeah.
But also it's not that bad of a port. Like there are loading time issues, but it's still just, it's a very good port for what it is.
It's one of those experiences you need to have.
It has a very, very interesting translation.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Okay, duly noted. I'm sure like many folks, I'm hoping to do Pixel Remaster this year, both because, it's there's still the newest version out. Plus, now that we have all of those extra like turbo features in both versions, it kind of makes it a little easier in certain sections or faster than, at the very least. I'm assuming, folks are allowed to use those features in a 4-job Fiesta still if they choose.
So mostly what the guidelines on the website are basically like, any tricks, any glitches are allowed, or not prohibited, but like you probably shouldn't berserk X-Death and not fight the final boss. That's like generally you want to actually fight the final boss, and that's kind of the one like really big restriction.
Do you though? Are you sure?
Look, I know most of the speedrun, so
so
we would never.
They intended to like do it glitchless, but you can if you really need to. One of the other things of note, I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with the Pixel Remaster, but something I learned when doing commentary for Zix Run, that there are a lot of things that are drastically different. So some of the gimmicks don't carry over. So some classes are much weaker in the Pixel Remaster versus the SNES version.
Okay.
So it is something to keep in mind when you're choosing things. And if you're asking for help in the Discord, which a lot of people ask for help, and it's a good place to go if you're stuck. But just keep in mind that the Pixel Remaster does have some nice bonuses, but also some weird things where some classes are nerfed.
Weird.
I have actually still never played the Pixel Remaster, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, I certainly haven't played it all the way through, which is why, again, I'm just like, well, this is a good opportunity.
Yeah. A lot of the Pixel Remasters have some kind of weird reworks. The main one in like 4 is Zeramus is just like, oh yeah, we hopped him up on something. I think they hero drink the heck out of him and he's just ridiculously fast and strong. But 5 has a lot more litany of changes to the point where like Guild Toss is predominant versus some of the other strats that you actually have. Like the SNES version honestly has more variety, so it's less frustrating with certain jobs, luckily.
Yeah.
Well, and that kind of bridges into a really good, like, we were mentioning earlier that, like, the reason to do the 4-job is, like, you can get kind of a lot of choice paralysis and, like, oh, there's so many jobs to choose from, and, like, how am I going to do this? But even in the 4-job Fiesta, like, there are resources, there are guides, there are people you can ask in Discords. There's a lot of things, like the 4-job Fiesta website, like, has links to all, like, the Discord and, like, all the help functions and everything you know about that. But, like, a thing that I would recommend to people is, like, if you're going to do your first 4-job Fiesta this year, like, try things. There are a lot of stuff that like you can just kind of cheese it with certain jobs and it just works out, and like you'll see that in the run because we're trying to go fast, but like just try your abilities, equip different things, fight fights you wouldn't, like just it's fun, like just experiment. It's really just a great way to play the game, especially if you haven't beaten it before. It's also the first way I beat the game as well, so I really recommend that if you're going to do your first run.
Because sorry, go ahead.
The most common thing I hear come up from people who play like through a Fiesta is that And the phrase is basically, I never realized X job is so powerful. And it comes up so much because when you're only limited to 4 jobs, you have to just use whatever they have. And there's just some that have a lot of hidden abilities that are just overshadowed by so many other jobs that you'd never know they even had.
Right.
Yeah. And like sometimes you think you have a really powerful party, like yours is kind of devoid of healing. Luckily, you have enough DPS that most things will just die before the healing becomes an issue. But like a corner case is Black Mage. I have no healing, and I need to survive through these fights because I haven't as well routed. Fire Rings will help you out quite a bit because Self Fire is a healing spell, just not a normal one.
Yep.
Burn the impurities away.
Absolutely.
I think that's like one of the allures of 4-job Fiesta. Whereas like 3 that has the same job system, the game really forces you to switch into certain jobs at certain points. And this game is really flexible with what they allow you to get into. And every fight is pretty much completable with like every party. The only time everything's out of your control is when you're on 4 berserkers, honestly.
I mean, to be fair, the game has been finished with 4 berserkers. So.
It's possible. It's possible.
Absolutely. I also want to note here that even though this is a speedrunning channel, the 4-job Fiesta is not a speedrun. You can absolutely play it that way should you choose to, but it's one of the things that makes it really good as a casual playthrough because it's just all it limits is your jobs, and even then you can look through the website, you click on the help option, and it defines the different types of runs, how it's going to divide all of the jobs up to give you at least some control on that random nature. And then you can just take your time. You have I think it's the rest of June, July, and August, I think is what it runs for. So you have all summer to try and finish it and, maybe complete your first run or do like some folks do. And I know folks who complete like multiple every like one a week or just there frequently. I'm just in awe watching them going like, wow, you were just clipping through these. I love it.
Yeah, I believe their name is El Magus.
See, that was a great thing about last year. That's not who I was
thinking of, but yes, that does sound like Magus.
That was a great thing about last year is that, I mean, like, not great for Limit Break, but we had it during July, which means that I completed like 3 or 4 Fiestas while I was at Limit Break. Yeah. Just because it was something to do while I was in between my volunteer shifts. And again, like, I talked Dragon Dark a lot and just like, I really like this game, but I've never had a chance to like kind of showcase it because I'm still in the midst of doing the speed run, and so like, hey, this is a thing that you can do, and it's fun. Like it really is. Just the bottom line is like video games are fun, right? That's why we're all here.
Hold on a sec, who told us that? Who said that?
Yeah, and like, so I just think it's a unique way to play it and a unique opportunity to like be able to do this run, and I actually like appreciate the people around me for letting me, step into this.
Yeah. So how long have you actually been involved with the 4-job Fiesta, Riz, even if, even though this is your first year doing the run?
2017, 2018?
Nice. Is that how long it's been going on for?
When was the first, you know this better, Dragon Dark?
I believe it was, so as far as the race goes, I believe the first year it was done was 2014.
Oh, wow.
Prior to that, Arcade used to just play through it himself with whatever jobs the community came up with. But there was one year where he was going to be unable to do that, so he sent an email off to me and Poexel asking if we'd be willing to do it instead. And that year was kind of interesting because we both got 2 different job sets, and that was he had a faster job set. But and then after that, we brought El Magus and Happy Squid in, and we did a race with 4 people, and then we also brought in Jenya, and then Riss was brought in for primarily as restreaming.
Yep.
And it's been going on for it's hard to think that it's actually been going on. This is like the 11th year that I've been involved with this. So.
Oh wow, That's amazing.
Yeah. So. The 4-job is not really a race outside of this initial one, and it's more of a challenge run for sure. Some people do clear one, and like myself, the last times I did it, I cleared like 3 or 4. It just depends on how you do it. So, Dawn? Let's go.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna pop in then. Riz, Dragon Dark. I think we all know the randomizers. There's tons of them. Specifically, there's one career day for FF5. How does this differ for those who are unfamiliar with the 4-job Fiesta and are familiar with randomizers, or vice versa? How does this kind of differ, the 4-job Fiesta, from, like, say, career day?
It's kind of randomized in its own way, right? So you're still going to find everything in the same place. You're gonna go to that item shop. It's going to have the same items in it, but the difference would be, like, whereas this is kind of a start to finish, figure out how you want to do this run, whereas a randomizer is more of a obtain objectives and then figure out every time you, like, make a change, you get something new unlocked, you unlock a new job, because I think and like, I've only played career day a couple times, so I can base off of this, but I think the base career day is just you start with one job and then you can find anything. You can find jobs, you can find abilities, you can find equipment. So it makes it for kind of a different sort of a challenge run, as it were. It's actually, and the major thing is that it's usually faster. A thing that we've been talking about is, like, hey, do your own 4-job Fiesta. Don't do it in one sitting like we're doing. Your first one's going to take, like, probably 16 to 20 hours. So don't try and just sit down, I'm going to do this run and be done. You're not. Just save, come back to it later. You're not going to have the same experience, the same ability to route, like, the same technical knowledge to try and, like, really speed this through and do it in... Would I say the job? It would be like 6.5 to like 7.5 hours is probably what it's going to take with no incentives.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the rando before randos, like Ancient Cave, that kind of stuff. So it's more akin to, like, challenge runs, like the initial equipment, no materia, no items, the word soup challenges. Luckily, the game kind of lends itself to that. But randos, it's more of knowing each individual area, what's progression. This is more of you go through the game naturally, so there's no wandering around and getting lost for the most part, because the game is quite linear in the progression, and it does a good job of pointing you to it, even if this is, like, your first run with it, for sure. It's a really nice setup that lends itself well to, like, learning the game and giving you some skill checks for sure.
That makes sense. So a couple of times we've brought up incentives. Does someone want to talk about those and what we're also fundraising for? Not it?
You want to rock, paper, scissors over?
I touched my nose. I'm not it.
So we do have incentives set up, and we have a fundraiser that RK sets up. It's for Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And it's just there's a donate button. You can go on the 4-job Fiesta site. There's a donate. There's a campaign. You can look at what you're going towards. But the incentives, I have to get to my the run page because I will forget if I don't. So I can just list them out really quick. Basically, piano flex, we always meet that, and so it's basically we have to go to all the pianos. The front character will do a fun animation every time that we do that, and so people like that. It's a really cheap one. The next one is fight all the Gilgamesh fights. There are technically 2 optional Gilgamesh fights. So we have to do all of those, or is it just the one?
Let's see. There's
because it's just Galuf Bridge,
boat, chest, and then the final
Boast,
one. So the last
Castle,
2
and then the final one. But it's basically just getting the one in XS Castle so that he shows up later too.
Yeah. If you skip the chest, then you skip the final one.
Yep.
So technically,
but you are technically skipping 2 of the fights.
Yeah.
You have to get the final save point. That's the next one. So there is a save point just before the final boss where you have to fight a boss necrophobe in order to unlock it, and that's one of the incentives as well. There is a next incentive that's collect all of the tablets. I'll get to that later. There's one to fight all the summons, which I really hope is met because we have Summoner, and it would be very thematic. The next one after that is no magic lamp. I'll get to that later too. The chicken knife is banned. Chicken knife is the best weapon in the game, and so if we get to that, you have to do that. And then there are 2 incentives for super bosses, Shinryu and Omega. So those are the incentives there. If you donate on the 4-Job Fiesta page, it will unlock those that we have to do and route into to complete those.
Yeah. Chicken knife is what it says on the tin. Every time you run, it increases the attack power, but because of that, it's also very boring to power it up. So I'd imagine part of it is just for like watchability, that you're not grinding out runs to make chicken knife hit like a truck.
Well, you normally end up running from a lot of encounters anyway, so it gets really powerful just in the course of going through the game. And it isn't just its attack power that makes it so powerful. It's that it has a different formula than other knives in the game, and it uses both your strength and your agility in equal measure, which basically makes it twice as strong as almost any other weapon in the game.
And I think like its one downside is you have like a third or a quarter chance to run every fight, something like that.
Yeah, 1 in 4 chance anytime you attack with it that you'll try to run. Annoying in random encounters, although it can be used to try and get away from hard to run from encounters. But in boss fights, you can have it just be like, oh, well, it's gonna proc like 6 times in a row, and you get no damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of this party, like, it's very much not attack focused, so like the fact that the chicken knife gets the strongest weapon when you run away from enough fights, like, we probably won't use it very much if we're allowed to, but also, again, all those utility uses would still be very nice, and it gives you agility, so you can get people to take their turns in different orders as well.
Yeah, we like that a lot. But
Agility
what if I want to get the Brave Blade this year?
So hilariously in the incentive, it says the chicken knife is banned, but you probably still shouldn't pick the Brave Blade.
But I'm new to this game. Why shouldn't I take the Brave Blade? It sounds really cool.
Brave Blade can only be used by 2 classes, Knight and Freelancer. It loses attack power every time you run away, and it doesn't have the bonus of like having the sweet chicken knife attack formula, so even at max power it generally does less damage, even though it has a higher base attack power.
Like 1 or 2 runs and it's already weaker than like the weapons you can get with tablets. It's very frustrating, honestly.
Yeah. Is it even worth the throw? Just toss it? Obviously not during the run.
If I remember correctly, it doesn't use the boosted attack power when you. It's either one of the chicken knife or the Brave Blade. One of them, if you throw it acts like it has 1 attack power. And
it's the Brave Blade because you can't throw the chicken knife.
Oh my god!
Oh,
yep.
Well,
that's everything you've told me. Every word about the Brave Blade, I'm like, yeah. Why would someone take that? Why would someone take that?
I would say terrible. Like once you should do a Brave Blade run, understand how bad it is, and then never take it again.
No, I'm gonna trust in my friends. You've told me it's bad, and I'm gonna trust you. It's bad.
So one of the other things we mentioned Freelancer there, it's vanilla. Like you get Freelancer at the very beginning, and when you're doing the job classes, it goes away almost immediately. There are some different settings, which I guess we can talk about after that. But the Freelancer takes the power of every class that's been maxed out. So even if you're struggling with it, you can donate some money to the charity, which is kind of part of the gimmick, and re-roll or choose a different class. So even if you're struggling, you can swap out your classes for a different one that makes it a little bit easier for you and still do good things for charity.
That also,
and if you follow them on Patreon, you get a free re-roll.
That also segues into we have a new incentive this year that's kind of weird, but isn't necessarily to do with your donations. But basically, the 4 of us are all assigned a character, and all those characters represent one of the job crystals. Well, basically, the winner of the race will actually make that job represented in the run half price to reroll into.
which is amazing.
Which is exciting.
I mean,
So,
considering
what
all
are
those
the-
are powers. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what are those 4 jobs like? Because I know it's each, we have 4 jobs, but like which one is for which person, just so
Okay.
folks know where to put their bets in, as it were.
Yeah, it'll be on the layout, but like Yagamoth represents the Wind Crystal. He's doing what? So that's Black Mage. And then Elmagus is the Water Crystal, which is Summoner. Bowie would be the Fire Crystal, which is Beastmaster. And then I am the Earth Crystal, which is Chemist.
Nice.
So you want me to
Okay,
win,
so-
because Chemist is sweet.
Yeah, but I mean, why? What's so good about Chemist, Riz?
Oh, do we want to go in depth in Chemist now?
Oh, I'm in. Let's do
All
it.
right. So, like, when you first get the Chemist job, it is pretty underwhelming. It has 2 things going for it. It is, when you use a restorative item, it doubles the effectiveness of it, so your potions heal 100 instead of 50, and then your high potions will heal 1,000 instead of 500. And then they have a drink command. They can drink 4 drinks. One of them doesn't do anything. And the other ones will give haste, they'll double your HP, and I swear I use the other one, hero drinks. They just up your level, right?
Mhm.
So of that, it's like, okay, you can make your Chemist haste and then be really high level, and the Chemist can use knives and staves. So good luck doing anything good with that.
Yeah.
However, if you get a Chemist to level 2, then you get a command that's Mix. And if you've played any Final Fantasy that has a Mix command, you know what's coming next. So basically, you can use any 2, well, not any 2, but combinations of 2 items, generally consumables, to create different items that are basically unobtainable except for Chemist. So things like putting status effects on your party members, reviving them with full HP, giving them resistance to instant death. There's
Nice.
an item you can combine to cast what is essentially the drain spell, but it's like 4 times as strong. There is like charts, because there are so many different things you can do with it and affect all of your party members to give yourselves just a multitude of effects, and it makes the job very, very good, as long as you look up those things and know what all
Look
of
it
those
up or
items do.
memorize them. That's part of the reason I never liked Chemist, because I knew it was overpowered and I was too lazy to look the information up.
It's a big thing in FF5. All of the really good things are like
Information.
Blue Mage is you learn blue magic spells, but you have to know which monster casts it, how to make them cast it.
How it
Yeah.
works.
The
Goblin
Beastmaster,
Punch.
which we have as well. Like when you catch a monster, what effect is it going to do when you release it? Like that's a big thing that happens with that too.
Yeah. But again, once you learn them, that's super powerful and things you can apply to future runs and playthroughs.
There's another one I think that gives like Berserk and Reflect or something like that. That's used a lot in Pixel Remaster, so that you can just guard things down with a knight, which I didn't realize this until that run. That like guard just zeroes the damage out, and I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
it do that in every version or just the Pixel Remaster version?
All of them.
That's all of them. It's a skill check that
Okay.
I was not aware of.
Good.
And it's
Love that.
that's the cool thing about this is watching this, you'll learn a lot of interesting interactions, and interacting with the community will teach you a lot of interesting interactions. And speaking of community, all the runners are kind of routing their own run, but you're not doing that completely in a vacuum, right? You're working with each other to route. And how do you find that experience kind of leans more into that community aspect of this event?
Both for this year and previous years.
So yeah, this year is really nice because like I wouldn't call myself like a high level FF5 player, but I've played it a lot. So having we kind of collaborate in certain instances to like, for example, with Chemist again, of like, oh, we need to gather this much of an item because we'll need these 4 for this boss, these 4 for this boss, 2 for here. So you have to pre-farm things and things like that. And when we're kind of sharing and collaborating that way, it gives you I should think about that when I'm doing my own routing. But it's still obviously like we want to have our own routes so that we have an interesting race.
Right. And have you found that in previous years, Dragon Dark?
Yeah, some years we collaborate more than others. There's been a few actually that we've just been like, we're all going to do our own route this year. We're not going to share anything. And then other years we're a little more collaborative.
Nice.
And it makes it, like Riz said, it makes the race kind of interesting because none of the runners are going to have the exact same route. Or they're all going to have slightly different changes. Even if they do some things exactly the same, there's going to be so many other things that just look different, and it makes the race really interesting to see who came up with the best route. And if you're like me and take a lot of gambles, who gets the most game overs because your strategy only had a 50% success rate.
What? There's RNG in these video games? Who's going to tell me?
Speaking of like community in general, ideally with like the 4-job Fiesta, there's a lot of community interaction, especially helping new people get through the run.
Yeah.
But somebody that's done a lot of more like single or few people speedruns, Dragon Dark, how do you find the community interaction with like games that are a lot more popular and some of the games that have just yourself or very few runners interested in it?
I guess it just depends on which community. It heavily depends on which community it is, really. Some communities are better than others about being willing to give information. Some aren't. I think sometimes still there's a lot to be gained from trying to route something without any outside help first, and just getting an idea of what you would like to do, and then after the fact, going in, talking to the community, like, hey, I had these ideas for this run. Can you all give me a hand? And in some cases, you might find that you accidentally found something that was actually faster, and they never thought of it just because you didn't have that template to start with. So you were just doing whatever you could think of. But sometimes, if the game's like really, really, really established, the odds of that happening are much lower. So getting involved with the community and just talking, asking them questions about, how do I do this strat? What does the route work this way? Will get you into doing your runs a bit faster rather than trying to do everything from the ground up.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that a lot. Some of the communities I've been in have been pretty established too. So it's always interesting to get takes on that. And definitely with some communities, there's a lot of people that are willing to help and other people that aren't, for sure. But I definitely enjoy that community interaction. I think it's one of the neatest things with like speedrunning is working together towards a goal. But I definitely YOLOing a couple of runs can be a really interesting experience. And then you look at what other people are doing and you're like, wow, I really like banging my head against brick walls. Let's go.
And I mean, some folks like that. Some folks both get the enjoyment out of figuring it out, learning, doing their thing. And then there are folks like me where I'm like, please tell me where I'm going.
Baby bird,
I need
please
my
give
little
information.
Guide. Please give. I don't even remember the site, but there is a site, and I don't know if it's updated for the Pixel remaster, where you just put in your jobs and it goes, okay, you're going to this place. Make sure you get these items, these abilities, next place. And I'm just like, yeah, tell me what to get.
That sounds like a really interesting utility tool. Isn't even aware of.
Yeah.
It's very nice. And
I
have used it in the past as well. But like I said earlier, like I would still recommend like just try your own things. Have fun. Like the main thing is like don't just. Well, this was boring because all I did was read a text document and then walked through the game. Like,
that's what I mean. If that's boring to you, don't do that.
Yeah. But like also, you get stuck. Yeah, just go look and like, oh, we decided we would do this or this, or you can get this random item in this place you didn't even know existed because not everywhere is required. So
honestly, like getting through some of those aggressively difficult fights on your own does feel pretty cathartic. But if you're struggling with it, like crystals is one that a lot of people hit. That's the roadblock that most people can't get through, and you have to ask. And the funny thing is, crystals has so many ways to get through it, but a couple of them you have to like pre-prep for. Like with I believe with Beastmaster, you want to grab one in World 1 and carry it all the way over to crystals.
Well, and like getting the fire ring.
Yeah, fire ring. I mean, to use last year as an example, the only way I had to get through that fight was I had to have a flame shield on one character and a flame ring on the other. And then I would intentionally lower the fire crystal down so it would just spam Firaga, which would keep me alive through all the other crystal stuff.
Heal me now.
And it's those kind of off the wall strats that sometimes are just necessary for a run like this, because while your party might be really strong in some fights, it's going to struggle in other ones. And you just got to you gotta be willing to think a little bit outside the box.
So
yeah, just so everyone knows, the utility I was talking about is called Enkibot. So Enkibot. So if that's the sort of thing which makes it more accessible for you, like it does to me, because I'm not a fan of beating my head against the wall, it's a utility that's out there. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. You don't need to. It's there, and you never have to open the website. But for those of us who like that sort of thing, have fun.
So I was thinking we can kind of depart a little bit from the Fiesta for a bit and talk about your personal journeys. Dragon Dark, what kind of brought you to the 4-job Fiesta, and why have you stayed with it so long versus doing it a couple of years and then dropping off?
I mean, it mostly just started because RK, like I said earlier, RK couldn't do it that one year, so Poexel and I just kind of agreed. And prior to that race, I had no experience running FF5 at all. I think the only reason RK messaged me at all was because in my first Fiesta in 2013, I took my party into the GBA bonus dungeon because I like pain, apparently.
Choices. Let's make this harder for no reason.
Some people like that.
I mean, I did that first race, and I learned a ton about the game. I had a lot of fun with it, and then I came back, I just kept coming back each year, this is actually kind of fun. I like learning more and more about this game as the years go on, and I mean, now at this point, I've never actually done a vanilla speed run of it, but I probably have enough knowledge that I could without too many problems nowadays.
Yeah.
But I find this race really interesting, because it's always a new set of jobs. It's always something different, and you have to route completely differently every year. And I like how I do like the time. I actually like the fact that we have a time constraint on being able to put it together. You can't spend like an eternity working on one section of the game. You have to get this all done within, I mean, now it's 2 weeks. It used to only be a week we'd have to route it. And it really made you think about the big picture of the run rather than any individual spot, because you had to make sure you had it all ready by the time the race came up.
So I'll ask the same question to you, Riz. What had brought you to the 4-job Fiesta, and what keeps you coming back?
So my general speedrun journey is that I played FF4. Yay, FF4. Woo. And then basically that got me into watching Limit Break. Limit Break is sweet. I'm going to go to Limit Break. I'm going to volunteer and be a stream tech. I'm the stream tech head now. So yeah, you should volunteer, by the way. That's my small snippet about Limit Break. You should volunteer.
Please come volunteer.
But so I did that, and then basically I had no sleep schedule because I worked overnights at a hotel. Magus reached out to me because he needed restreaming for other things, and I was like, yeah, I can do 2 a.m. That's not a problem. And then would do that for various things, races, marathons, whatever else. And then it was we do this really early because it's European time. Do you want to restream this race? And I went, sure, yeah. And then because I watch it for 7 to 11 hours every year, I was like, maybe I should play this game. And I was doing more and more Fiestas every year. Like I did 1 or 2 my first year. I did like 3 or 4 the second. I did like 6. And then I was like, I think I'm good enough for this game. I can play it. So, yeah.
Time to prove it.
Time to prove it. Yeah, here it is, man. Ooh.
Yeah, I've done the same thing too, where I think like 2 or 3 years I managed to belt out like 3 or 4, but it's definitely a big jump from go at your own pace to, well, I'm going to finish this today, whether I enjoy it or not.
You got to finish it.
Happening.
So I remember some of the earlier races were a lot more long in the tooth before it kind of got set down to what it is nowadays, where it's more or less a challenge speed run at this point.
I would attribute that to I think we just have like a solid understanding of FF5 kind of overall now, like as a community. And so the runs that used to take 10, 11, 12 hours, like it's a little bit shorter, but there are still sets of jobs where like you will just take longer. You have to do more grinding. You have to get those certain items. Like it will just take you 3 more hours because you just don't have the tools.
That is a fair counterpoint.
That is a thing I can stress about. Like this job set is relatively easy. Like the game is not simple.
Yeah.
And like routing it in 2 weeks, like Dragon Dark said, is like not easy, but it's like comparatively it is quite a bit less stressful to kind of complete the game with this and like get everything that we just don't have to do a lot of extra fights.
Actually,
And that's what mostly takes up all your time.
very good early, kind of a weakish mid, but an extremely strong end game.
Yeah.
End game is really where you need that firepower, and you find things that end up taking a lot longer when you're, middling power for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In my experience in routing it is that the hardest fight is actually the bridge Gilgamesh, and that is like basically smack dab in the middle of the run, because you have Chemist and you probably have one person with Mix, but you're just kind of like, okay, I got a couple of these items in World 1, these are the things I can use, but I don't have level 3 spells, I don't have Sildra for Summoner, which is tier 4.
Yes.
Yeah, and like so, like you have abilities and you can do a lot, but you don't have like the whole picture yet, because you still have a couple more places you can get to where you're like, you can buy the chemist drinks, you can buy high potions, you can get your level 3 spells. So like you're right that middle game is kind of where it is a little bit worse, and you're like hoping that it doesn't go too terribly wrong on Gilgamesh, which I mean is a good thing because he should be the final boss.
There's something that we've yet to talk about that is a pretty neat interaction. As you learn a job skill, you can set it to the secondary slot, and not only does it give you access to that, but it will upgrade to your stats to whatever is the most powerful. So if you put Summoner and Black Mage on, it'll take the most powerful magic. Does this route need to take advantage of that, or is there really no application with these classes?
I've noticed, and this is like because I've been reading other people's notes and then doing things on my own, that because I get Summoner 1 extra level, I have like 1 extra magic power, so I have to do things slightly differently because my spells do just a little bit more damage. But it's like not even like it's almost negligible. It's like skipping someone's turn instead of casting Fire 1, or like it's the things that like it doesn't matter as much in this run because we're so magic focused. Whereas like if I had Ninja is a great example. So Ninja has the throw skill. They can throw weapons, they can throw shuriken, but they can also throw these scrolls, and the scrolls are based on your magic power. So if you had a Black Mage, a Time Mage, a Summoner, I mean, a lot of things will increase it, but like that will like triple your magic power, and it will make your damage output for those throws specifically like so much higher.
And they're so cheap to get a hold of too. Magic scrolling is ridiculous. That was kind of what I was thinking in the back of my head when I asked that question.
Good.
What I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we've been talking a lot about like the 4-job Fiesta and your everyone's kind of experience with it. Why don't we just step away from that for a second? Just talk about your experience with speedrunning and streaming in general. Like, what sort of games are you playing both these days? What are you interested in? Like, tell us a bit about your life outside of Final Fantasy V.
I haven't streamed on Twitch for 2 years.
The
last game I played was Live Alive, the remake. I actually really like that short speed run because I think it's fun. But I didn't go super in depth in it because there's only like 4 of us running it.
I mean, you folks can talk about things you're not streaming too. Like, I think we all like video games.
Do we?
I play a lot of. I'll admit it first. I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, you too. Yeah.
Yeah. It couldn't be me.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Black Mage Jobstone.
Yes.
Fantasy 14.
Looking forward to the Dawn Trail expansion at the end of the month.
Can't wait.
Well, that's why we couldn't do the run at the end of the month. Clearly.
Is that literally why?
No, I'm busy.
I'm busy.
It may have come up in considerations, potentially.
Well, I was going to say, like, because I know you and Magus play. Bowie plays, I think, too.
Yeah, that's
Bowie,
true.
Bowie, I think Yaga's the only one out of the five of
Yaga
us who doesn't play.
Amazing.
And I
Final
believe
Fantasy
he has
14.
played at least once.
He has
Yeah,
played
Final Fantasy 14 ruining everything with glee.
with glee.
With glee. How about you, Dragon Dark? What are you playing these days?
Not really a lot. Like I still play 14. Let's be real here. But there's actually an event coming up that starts at the same time on the same day that the 4-job Fiesta happens. It's called the NES Odyssey.
Okay.
The Best of NES crew is putting it together. It's not like a streamed event. They want to have have the community beat as many NES games in a week as possible.
Mm-hmm.
They have a list of 800 games they want to see us all go through collectively. And
That's cool.
I'm derusting a couple of games that I used to run just because they didn't have any volunteers for them. And I picked up one game that's newer, or one new game for me anyway, just because it didn't have anybody for it.
Yeah.
And I've done some things to that game, so that'll be something I stream next week after the race is over.
Shocked and amazed.
I have to
cool.
ask this because I know some games you run. Are you playing Karnov?
Actually, no. Somebody else already. Two other people had already signed up for Karnov, so I'm just like, you can have it.
Then what games?
I mean, I'm doing Swords and Serpents.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm doing Athena.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I can see the smirks.
Tracks.
Good old Kusa.
I'm doing crap. What were the 4 of them? I'm doing Deadly Towers.
Oh yes.
Of course. Nobody else would be willing to do that.
I'm doing Cosmopolice Galaban, which is actually a pretty good game. And then there's the last one that I signed up for, which I don't want to reveal yet. I want that one to be a surprise when I stream it.
Yep. No
It's
problem.
Athena again, right? You're just going through
twice.
Athena another time.
So one of the other things we talked about is your jobs are set. I know there's multiple different settings for this. Well, one of the ones that comes to mind is actually 5-job Fiesta, where is it Galoof's job gets replaced by
Cryo.
Yep. And she actually gets a new job when she joins. Mm-hmm. But are there any other interesting settings that you like to play personally or play every once in a while?
I usually just do a mix. Like that's actually usually it's just I'll do a normal. I usually don't do natural. So this is one that I don't like because it railroads really hard. But basically a natural run is your character is this job and they can't change jobs, which means you can't mix and match and you can't do any of that. So I don't like doing those. So I'll specify that. But mostly like I'll do a normal run. I'll do a random, which is like you can get a fire job at the wind crystal, so you don't have anything until the water crystal, things like that.
I think they changed the names of those this year.
They did, and I never
because I was looking
that.
through. Yeah, what used to be a random is now I think it's the meteor run. If you just want full random.
Yep.
Yeah, full random is meteor, and the other 2 run types are variants of random. One of them leans more heavily towards wind crystal, where the wind crystal will always give you a wind job, and then water will give you wind or water, and then so on and so on up through the earth crystal.
It's the typhoon run.
And then the other one, I believe it's volcano.
Yeah.
It leans more heavily towards the earth crystal. Mm-hmm. So you could literally get the 4 earth crystal jobs as you go through and be stuck with freelancers until the end of World 1.
Mm-hmm. Which has its pros and cons of itself.
Yeah, freelancers can equip anything, but they have also terrible stats and no abilities.
So better for some of those early fights than, say, all white mages, but that's about it.
All thieves.
White mage isn't even, like, bad. It's just slow.
Yep.
Oh, exactly.
It's tedious.
It's tedious. You get armor. Armor is amazing. I want to have armor the whole run.
Yeah.
I wish I had armor this run. I actually love white mage.
Oh no, I love white mage too, but when you start and there's, you're doing some of those early bosses with 4 white mages, you're like, it's a little slow.
And that's when, I can get into the routing part here. We were talking about like specific routing things. And like, that would be, so we mentioned like you get your first job when you get the Wind Crystal, because obviously we still unlock jobs vanilla. We don't use any ROM hacks. We don't use any outside hardware. So like even though we have the 4 jobs, we still only get them when we unlock them. Mm-hmm. So for the example of like a White Mage run, generally you would kill the first boss in the Wind Shrine and then just grind on Freelancer, because it's way faster than grinding on White Mages. So you get to, level, I don't know, 8, 10, 11, something like that before you allowed
to do that in the 4-job Fiesta, though?
Oh, absolutely.
You can do it however you want. I mean, White Mage also has the advantage. It's not just do all the grinding back in Wind Shrine. You get a few levels back there, but then when you get to the first town, you can pick up the Cure spell. Mm-hmm. And if you just drag that with you to the ship graveyard, everything's undead there. And we all know how healing works in Final Fantasy versus undead, where now the White Mage is a really powerful damage dealer. Mm-hmm. So that's another strategy you can use for that. But you kind of have to with White Mage a little bit, though, because they have no other damage output.
Well, absolutely.
I'll do Fork Tower, and then you can get Holy. Eventually.
That's one of those knowledge checks we actually talked about earlier, that like when you go into a class, dependent on whether it's like natural or whatever, where it limits to one person and one class, it sometimes is advantageous to grind with like freelancers there or White Mages beforehand, or blow it off until the very latest possible so that you can get all the APV in the class that you want.
Yep.
One of the interesting distinctions in this game is actually like job levels and level levels are completely separate. And your actual stats are tied to your levels, and bosses actually, I believe they don't give you XP, correct?
That's correct.
So grinding levels is something you really need to do. And grinding jobs are like 2 separate things. Sometimes you can do both, but are there any points in the run where like levels are heavily favored, or you target specific fights because they do both efficiently?
So the main thing with this party specifically is that we lean on Black Mage and Summoner very heavily in World 1. And what this game does differently from like some other games that will just like Dragon Quest games will just give you stat ups when you level. They'll give you +1 strength, +1 vitality, whatever. But this game has just like you get multipliers when you hit certain breakpoints where your level plus your stat that you're using actually gives you like a damage increase. And so thanks to people before me that have already done all of this work, and thank you, I know which levels have those breakpoints. And so like the first well, I guess technically the third boss, like I want to be level 5 because that gives me damage enough that I can use 6 spells instead of 7 or 8. And then like we can grind outside of before going in like the fire ship and the fire boss there. Like you want to be level 8 or 9 so that when they use an attack and then a second attack, you don't just die. That's an HP thing, actually. Because as mages, we don't have a lot of HP because that's how that works. And so sometimes your level grinding isn't even for your stats, but it's actually just survivability.
Please let me live. Please.
Because like again, you're not going to get much more than just like those little multipliers every couple levels. And so like getting to a threshold that's like, okay, now I have 300 HP, and so this boss does 280 to me with his attack that he's going to get, but because I have such good damage output, he's only going to get to do it once.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love that sort of routing and planning, and it's the stuff like every year I'm like, oh yeah, I'm understanding this a little more. But yeah, it really, it's amazing. And again, you get a lot of this help from the community in the Discord, something that's open to everyone to join. We have posted it a few times in chat. Let me post it here again for you, everyone. So in case you want to join and participate with us, want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to be involved.
So I guess I'll ask more of a spicy question that's a little bit outside of the realm. A lot of the more modern Final Fantasy games have kind of departed from the turn-based action that really kind of is the key cornerstone of this for 4, 5, 6, and some of the older ones. Have you found that you enjoy the newer action style in as well as the old classic turn-based, or do you find that you really enjoy just the classic turn-based ones and not so much with the action?
I'm not I don't hate the new action games, but I definitely bounce off of them worse. Like, I like being able to strategize, build up something, have the turns to, like, I know that when I put this input in, it happens at this time. And, like,
Yeah.
you can do that with action games, but it's definitely more in-depth. You're kind of getting up to speedrunning if you're really going to do an action game and have that precise of, like,
skill-based.
doing the same abilities and doing everything always at the same time, and when the boss is a certain threshold, things like that.
Yeah.
So I am definitely more of a fan of turn-based, and it's, like, kind of obvious. I played 4, 5, 6, 7. So, yeah.
How
about you, Dragon Dark?
I mean, I haven't played a lot of the more modern games, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
fair.
I like them both basically for different reasons.
Yeah.
Turn-based are much more strategizing, planning, getting yourself set up so that you can handle a fight. But like Riss said, you can set yourself up so you know, okay, I can do this much before this happens, and I can get this thing done before this turn goes off and stuff like that. Whereas with action games, it's a lot more reaction-based, where you're basing what you're doing on what the enemy is doing to you or what your allies might be doing, and you're trying to just react to everything as it happens, and you have maybe a general sense of what you might want to be trying to go in with. But I like them I kind of like them both equally, just for very different reasons.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I find the same myself too, as somebody that speedruns the more modern, the remake, Rebirth, 16. The granular control is lost versus the turn-based stuff. It's definitely a lot more fun, and the turn-based lends itself more to challenges like 4-Job Fiesta, where you can strategize and think about what you're doing instead of like, well, I hit the button, I hope I don't die. And you can actually sit there and be like, do I want to hit this button? Yes. Oh, I died. Well, that was my fault.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to hit that button.
Yeah, I find I enjoy those modern type games, but not to the exclusive of the previous ones. Like, I still want my turn-based RPGs, and I am sad that Final Fantasy itself has migrated away from that, but it does give me opportunity to enjoy other series that are either still doing it or are new and are doing it. So I'm definitely glad that those retro style but more like turn-based games still exist.
Yeah,
because like you say, they're kind of different genres even.
Yeah, even as somebody that like enjoys the action stuff, I really wish they would do both rather than be like, well, go play a different series. Neat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so outside of the 4-Job Fiesta, you said you really haven't speedrun this at all. So a lot of this speedrunning experience is just from doing 4-Job over and over again, to the point where now it kind of feels natural, right? Okay.
Yep.
It's really interesting that, that this kind of creates its own speedrunning category. And every run is different, but you still gain more experience to the point where you can adapt to these changes every single run. Has there ever been, I mean, outside of 4 Berserkers, which is like obviously the meme run that everybody's like, this is the hardest. What was one of the hardest party comps you ever got? If you remember.
I can't say I necessarily have had any that have been like hard, but I do remember one before I realized the Reflect Ring Mage Master strat, where I got a fully physical team and tried to go through Fork Tower, and that was amazing.
Oh no.
I had Berserker and I had Ninja. I remember that much, and I just, at one point, I'm like, all right, I got 3 characters here. They're all berserked. I can't be damaged by anything, so I'm just going to set the controller down with something on top of the A button, and I'm going to go do something else for a while and see if the fight finishes on its own.
I'll be back in 15 minutes.
An hour and a half later, I had won. So,
well, that's good at least. That sounds terrifying. For those who don't know, yeah, Fork Tower, isn't that like you can't use magic or you have to use magic. It's
one half. If you use magic, you get counterattacked very harshly. The other half, if you use physicals, you get counterattacked very harshly. And versus the bosses, the physical side, you can't use magic at all. It's just completely disabled. And on the magical side, if you use anything that isn't counted as magic, which there's a lot of things that are technically magic that aren't counted as magic, the boss just casts the return spell, which puts you back at the beginning of the fight. If you want an example of how annoying that boss can be, just go look at the VOD from last year's run, where I had to do Mage Master Reflect strats for like 26 minutes to take him down.
Oh no. I don't remember that from last year, but now I need to go back and watch that because that sounds awful.
Fod-ho!
We all knew it was coming. Everyone, like when we saw what the team was going to be, we all knew what was going to happen. I guess thankfully no one else had to do it but me, but it was like
the real reason everyone quit.
Everybody who was watching, anyone who was watching at the time knew it was coming, and they knew it was just going to be this slog of a fight. And with that team, there was no other way to do it, unfortunately. So
absolutely. Sometimes be like that. Well, Riz, Dragon Dark, you've been here talking to us about Final Fantasy V and the 4-job Fiesta. We're getting ready to clue up here. Any last things you want to talk about, either about yourselves, your own streaming or gaming lives, the 4-job Fiesta itself?
I do want to shout out my fellow runners because without them, this wouldn't be much of a race, but also because a lot of the thing of talking to Dragon Dark and being like, oh yeah, I do want to do this. I watched Yagamoth actually ran a series on YouTube, and he has run every job through solo.
Yep.
And what that does is okay, if I get this specific job, how are you beating this fight that I think it can't beat? And it can, except for Berserker, because if we don't have RNG manipulation, you can't actually beat Neo X-Death in a reasonable amount of time. But any job has the utility to do something to create opportunities to beat any given boss. Every boss at its base is a puzzle, and so big shout out to him. El Magus does just a lot of Fiesta runs, and so I watch his channel anyways, but also just any given time he has probably played this run before. He's done so many that he's probably done this run before. That's just kind of how that equals out. And then Bowie is he's nice to watch because he doesn't play it as much, but he does a lot of things that are I'm doing this because it's comfortable. I'm doing this because this is a safety thing. This is I want to make sure I get through this. I can do this and I know it will work every single time. Yep. And that's very advantageous to be I can do that because I can't do whatever really convoluted thing the other two are trying to do. And so all of them have been very, very helpful for me being my first race. That it definitely, and I mean shout out to Dragon Dark too, because they've been running the opening race for 10 years now, and so being able to watch them for 10 plus hours every single time I was restreaming it is also helped me with a lot of the very weird minutia that this run introduces.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Dragon Dark?
I guess as far as shoutouts go, we should probably shout out RK for even putting the event together in the first place and putting up with all of our nonsense in our little private The Run Discord.
I bet he loves it.
Yeah, we did reach out to RK, but unfortunately it's 1 to 2 a.m. for them for this show. So they politely declined, and I completely understand.
Yeah,
which fair.
That's kind of one of the other funny things is that we usually finish the run, and then it's okay, the Fiesta's going to start whenever RK gets out of bed and pushes the button.
I remember that every year. It's just everyone's just on tether hooks being when's RK getting up? Are you going to press the button? When are you pressing the button? We're ready for our runs here. We're all motivated.
Yeah, for those who don't know, RK lives in Japan, so opposite end of the world is pretty much the rest of us. So we usually get done with the race, and then it'll just be an hour or two. He'll roll out of bed, and okay, buttons pushed, everyone can go.
Yeah, go back to bed. I assume.
but just major props to him for doing all. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes on the website for designing the run types. He's got a wiki updated now. He has a big Discord server for 4-Job Fiesta, and just all the work he's put in all the over the years for just keeping this thing together. And I mean, we wouldn't be doing this race without him. So
absolutely,
big shout outs to RK.
And like for the entire thing, there is actually Fiesta events that happen outside of the 4-Job Fiesta. This one is 3 month long, but he'll usually run things the other 9 months, just whatever random game. It's usually like 4-Job Fiesta-esque, but obviously like not every game has jobs, so he just kind of makes stuff as he goes, but very creative ways to just play other games as well if you're interested, not just in FF5.
Yeah, I've seen Chrono Trigger, FF6, Final Fantasy VII, to name a few, and I know there's been plenty of others. So, well, thank you so much to both Riz and Dragon Dark for joining us. Sid, thank you so much for coming here and hosting with me. And with that, we're going to send it back to your regular programming. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out, and look forward to seeing you all 8 a.m. Eastern Time on June 15th, which is this coming Saturday, is the start of the run. So come and join us here on RPG Limit Break, and we'll watch it together and with our tea, coffee, and then wait for RK to start things up afterwards. See everyone later. Bye.
Bye.